was written and first performed in San Francisco, I believe 1954, 6th Gallery. Howl for Call Solomon by Allen Ginsberg on the occasion of his 100th birthday.
Woo!
I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves to the Negro streets at dawn, looking for an angry fix. Angel-headed hipsters burning for the ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo and the machinery of the night, who poverty and tatters and hollowed-eyed and high-sat up, smoking in the supernatural darkness of cold water flats, floating across the tops of cities, contemplating jazz, who bared their brains to heaven under the L and saw Mohammedan angels staggering on tenement roofs illuminated, who passed through universities with radiant, cool eyes, hallucinating Arkansas and Blake-like tragedy among the scholars of war, who were expelled from the academics for crazy and publishing obscene odes on the windows of the skull, who cowered in unshaven rooms in underwear, burning their money in wastebaskets and listening to the terror through the wall, who got busted in their public beards, returning through Laredo with a belt of marijuana for New York, who ate fire in paint hotels or drank turpentine in Paradise Alley, death or purgatory their torsos night after night, with dreams, with drugs, with waking nightmares, alcohol and cock and endless balls. Incomparable blind streets of shuddering cloud and lightning and the mind leaping toward poles of Canada and Patterson, illuminating all the motionless world of time between. Peyotes, solidities of halls, backyard green trees, cemetery dawns, wine, drunkenness over the rooftop, storefront, burrows of tea-head joyride, neon blinking traffic light, sun and moon and tree vibrations in the roaring winter dusks of Brooklyn, ashcan rantings and kind king light of mine, who chained themselves to subways for the endless ride from Battery to Holy Bronx on Benzedrine until the noise of wheels and children brought them down, shuddering, mouth-racked and battered, bleak of brain, all drained of brilliance in the drear light of zoo.
A lost battalion of platonic conversationalists jumping down the stoops of fire escapes, off windowsills, off Empire State, out of the moon. Yakety yakking, screaming, vomiting, whispering facts and memories and anecdotes and eyeball kicks and shocks of hospitals and jails and wars. Whole intellects disgorged in total recall for 7 days and nights with brilliant eyes meet for the synagogue cast on the pavement, who vanished into nowhere Zen, New Jersey, leaving a trail of ambiguous picture postcards of Atlantic City Hall, suffering Eastern sweats and Tangerian bone grinding and migraines of China under junk with withdrawal in New York's bleak furnished room, who wandered around and around at midnight in the railroad yard, wondering where to go, and went leaving no broken hearts.
Who burned cigarette holes in their arms protesting the neurotic tobacco haze of capitalism, who distributed super communist pamphlets in Union Square, weeping and undressing while the sirens of Los Alamos wailed them down, and wailed down Wall, and the Staten Island ferry also wailed, who broke down crying in white gymnasiums, naked and trembling before the machinery of other skeletons, who bit detectives in the neck and shrieked with delight in police cars for committing no crime but their own wild cooking pederasty and intoxication, who howled on their knees in the subway and were dragged off the roof, waving genitals and manuscripts, who let themselves be fucked in the ass by sanguinely motorcyclists and screamed with joy, who blew and were blown by those human serpents, the sailors, sacresses of Atlantic and Caribbean love, who bawled in the morning and the evenings in rose gardens and the grass of public parks and cemeteries, scattering their semen freely to whomever come who may.
Who hiccuped endlessly trying to giggle, but wound up with a sob behind a partition in the Turkish bath when a blonde and naked angel came to pierce them with a sword. Who lost their love boys to the three old shrews of fate, the one-eyed shrew of the heterosexual dollar, the one-eyed shrew that winks out of the womb, and a one-eyed shrew that does nothing but sit on her ass and snip the intellectual golden threads of the craftsman's loom. Who copulated ecstatic and insatiate with a bottle of beer, a sweetheart, a package of cigarettes, a candle, and fell off the bed, and continued along the floor and down the hall, and ended fainting on the wall with a vision of ultimate cunt and cum eluding the last jism of consciousness.
Got it.
Who sweetened the snatches of a million girls trembling in the sunset and were red-eyed in the morning, but prepared to sweeten the snatch of the sunrise, flashing buttocks under barns and naked in the lake. Who went out pouring through Colorado in myriad stolen night cars, MC, secret hero of those poems, Coxman and Adonis of Denver, joy to the temporary of his innumerable lays of girls in empty lots and diner backyards.
Movie houses, rickety rows on mountaintops and caves, and the gaunt waitresses and familiar roadside lonely petticoat upliftings, and especially secret gas stations, ellipsisms of John's, and hometown alleys too, who faded out in vast sordid movies, were shifted in dreams, woke on a sudden Manhattan, and picked themselves up out of basements hung over with heartless tokay and orders of Third Avenue iron dreams, and stumbled to unemployment offices, who walked all night with their shoes full of blood on the snowbank docks, waiting for a door in the East Rivers open to a room full of steam heat and opium, who created suicidal dramas on the apartment cliff banks of the Hudson under the wartime blue floodlight of the moon, and their heads shall be crowned with laurel and oblivion, who ate the lamb stew of the imagination or digested the crab at the muddy bottom of the rivers of the Bowery, who wept at the romance of the streets with their pushcarts full of onions and bad music, who sat in boxes, breathing in the darkness under the bridge, and rose up to build harpsichords in their loss,
who coughed on the 6th floor of the Harlem Crown with flame under the tubular sky surrounded by orange crates of theology, who scribbled all night rocking and rolling over lofty incantations, which in the yellow morning were stantonized stanzas of gibberish, who cooked rotten animals, lung, heart, feet, tail, borscht, and tortillas, dreaming of the pure vegetable kingdom, who plunged themselves under meat trucks looking for an egg, who threw their watches off the roof of cast their ballots for eternity outside of time, and alarm clocks fell on their heads every day for the next decade, who cut their wrists 3 times unsuccessfully, gave up, and were forced to open antique stores where they thought they were growing old and cried, who were burned alive in their innocent flannel suits on Madison Avenue amid blasts of leaden verse and tanked-up clatter of the iron regiments of fashion and the nitroglycerin shrieks of the fairies of advertising, and the mustard gas of sinister, intelligent editors. Or were run down by the drunken taxicabs of absolute reality.
Who jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge, this actually happened, and walked away unknown and forgotten. Who into the ghostly days of Chinatown soup alleyways and fire trucks, not even one free beer. Who sang out of their windows in despair, fell out of the subway windows, jumped into the filthy plastic, jumped in on Negroes, cried out all over the street, danced on broken wine glasses, barefoot, smashed phonographs, recorded records of nostalgic European 1930s German jazz, finished the whiskey and threw up groaning into the bloody toilet, moans of their ears and the blast of colossal stream whistles, who barrel down the highways of the past journey to each other, rotted, gothic, jail salute, watch, or Burmese jazz incarnation, who drove cross country 72 hours to find out if I had a vision, or you had a vision, or he had a vision to find out eternity, who journeyed to Denver, who died in Denver, who came back to Denver, who waited in vain, who watched over Denver, who brought and brooded and loaned in Denver, and finally went away to find out the time. Now Denver is lonesome for her heroes.
Who fell on their knees in hopeless cathedrals praying for each other's salvation and light and breasts until the soul illuminated its hair for a second. Who crashed through their minds in jail waiting for impossible criminals with golden heads and the charm of reality in their hearts, who sang sweet blues to Alcatraz. Shout out Alcatraz. Who retired to Mexico to cultivate a habit, or Rocky Mount to tender Buddha, or Tangiers to Boys or Southern Pacific, to the Black Locomotive or Harvard or Narcissus, to Woodland, to the Daisy Chain or Brave. Who demanded sanity trials accusing the radio of hypnotism, or were left with their insanity in their hands and a hung jury. Who threw potato salad at CCNY lecturers on Dadaism, and subsequently presented themselves on the granite steps of the madhouse with shaven heads and harlequin speech of suicide, demanding instantaneous lobotomy, and who were given instead the concrete void of insulin, metrazole, electricity, hydrotherapy, psychotherapy, occupational therapy, ping pong, and amnesia. Who in humorless protest overturned only one symbolic ping pong table, resting briefly in catatonia, returning years later truly bald except for a wig of blood, and tears and fingers to the visible madman doom of the wards of the mad towns of the East. Pilgrim states, rocklands, and greystones, foetid halls, bickering with the echoes of the soul, rocking and rolling in the midnight solitude, bench doled realms of love. Dream of life, a nightmare, bodies turned to stone, as heavy as the moon. With mother, finally. And there's a lot of stars.
And the last fantastic book flung out of the tenement window, and the last door closed at 4 a.m., and the last telephone slammed at the wall in reply, and the last furnished room emptied down to the last piece of mental furniture. A yellow paper rose twisted on a wire hanger in a closet, and even that imaginary, nothing but a hopeful little bit of hallucination. Ah, Carl, while you are not safe, I am not safe, and now you're really in the total animal soup of time. And who therefore ran through the icy streets, obsessed with the sudden flash of the alchemy, of the use of the eclipse, the catalog, the meter, and the vibrating plane, who dreamt and made incarnate gaps in time and space through images juxtaposed, and trapped the archangel of the soul between two visual images, and joined the elemental verbs and set them down in dash of consciousness together jumping with sensation of pater omnipotens aeterna Deus.
To recreate the syntax and a measure of poor human prose, and a stance before you speechless and intelligent, and shaking with shame, rejected, and confessing out the soul to conform to the rhythm of thought in this naked and endless head. The madman, bum, and angel beat in time, unknown, yet putting down here what might be left to say in time to come after death. And rose incarnate, reincarnate, in the ghostly clothes of jazz and the gold horn, shadow of the band in blue, suffering of the America's naked mind for love into an Eli, Eli, Lama, Lama, Sabakapani, saxophone, cry that shivered the cities down to the last radio with the absolute part of the poem of the life, butchered out of their own bodies, good to eat 1,000 years. What sphinx of cement and aluminum bashed open their skulls and ate up their brains and imagination? Moloch, solitude, filth, ugliness, ash cans, and obtainable dollars, children screaming under the stairways, boys sobbing in armies, old men weeping in the parks. Moloch, Moloch, nightmare of Moloch, Moloch in the loveless, mental Moloch, Moloch the heavy judger of men, Moloch the incomprehensible prison, Moloch the crossbones, soulless jailhouse and congress of sorrows, Moloch whose buildings are judgment, Moloch the vast stone of war, Moloch the stunned governments, Moloch whose mind is pure machinery, Moloch whose blood is running money, Moloch whose fingers are 10 armies, Moloch whose breasts and cannibal dynamo, Moloch whose ear is smoking tube, Moloch whose eyes are 1,000 blind windows, Moloch whose skyscrapers stand in the long streets like endless Jehovah's, Moloch whose factories dream and croak in the fog, Moloch whose smokestacks and antenna crown the cities.
Moloch whose love is endless oil and stone, Moloch whose soul is electricity and banks, Moloch whose poverty is the specter of genius, Moloch whose fate is the cloud of sexless hydrogen, Moloch whose name is the mind, Moloch in whom I sit lonely, Moloch in whom I dream angels, crazy in Moloch, cocksucker in Moloch, lack love and manless in Moloch, Moloch who entered my soul early, Moloch who I am a consciousness without a body, Moloch who frightened me out of my natural ecstasy, Moloch whom I abandoned. Wake up in Moloch, light streaming out of sky. Moloch, Moloch, robot apartments, invisible suburbs, skeleton treasuries, blind capitals, demonic industries, spectral nations, invisible madhouses, granite cocks, monstrous bombs. They broke their backs lifting Moloch to heaven. Pavements, trees, radios, tons, lifting the city to heaven, which exists and is everywhere about us. Visions, omens, hallucinations, miracles, ecstasies, gone down the American river. Dreams, adorations, illuminations, religions, the whole boatload of sensitive bullshit. Breakthroughs over the river, flips and crucifixions, gone down the flood, highs, epiphanies, despairs, 10 years animal screams and suicide, minds, new loves, mad generation, down on the rocks of time. Real holy laughter in the river. They saw it all, the wild eyes, the holy yells, the vague farewell. They jumped off the roof to solitude, waving, carrying flowers, down to the river, into the street. Yeah.
Carl Solomon, I'm with you in Rockland, where you're madder than I am. I'm with you in Rockland, where you must feel very strange. I'm with you in Rockland, where you imitate the shade of my mother. I'm with you in Rockland, where you've murdered your 12 secretaries. I'm with you in Rockland, where you laugh at this invisible humor. I'm with you in Rockland, where we were great writers on the same dreadful typewriter. I'm with you in Rockland, where your condition has become serious and is reported on the radio. I'm with you in Rockland, where the faculties of the skull no longer admit the worms of the senses. I'm with you in Rockland, where you drink the tea of the
breasts of the spinsters of Utica. I'm with you in Rockland, where you pun on the bodies of your nurses, the harpies of the Bronx.
I'm with you in Rockland, where you scream in a straitjacket, you're losing the pain of actual I'm with you in Rockland, where you're playing the pentatonic piano of soul is innocent and immortal, and it should never die, ungodly in an unarranged madhouse. I'm with you in Rockland, where 50 more shots will never return your subject's body from its pilgrimage to a cross. I'm with you in Rockland, where you accuse your doctors of insanity and plot the Hebrew socialist revolution. I'm with you in Rockland, where you sleep and resurrected living King Jesus from the secret tomb. I'm with you in Rockland, where there are 25,000 mad comrades all together singing the final stanzas of international. I'm with you in Rockland, where we hide and kiss the United States under our bed sheets, the United States that coughs all night and won't let us sleep. I'm with you in Rockland, where we wake up electrified out of the coma by our own souls' airplanes, roaring over the roof that they've come to drop angelic bombs. The hospital illuminates itself. Imaginary walls collapse. Oh, skinny legions run outside. Oh, starry, spangled shock of mercy. The eternal war is here. Oh, victory. Forget your underwear. We're free. I'm with you in Rockland. In my dreams you walk dripping from a sea journey on the highway across America in tears to the door of thy cottage in the western night.
Holy, 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 holy. The world is holy, the soul is holy, the skin is what holy. The nose is holy, the tongue and cock and hand and asshole holy. Everything is holy, everybody's holy, everywhere is holy. Every day is an eternity, every man's an angel. The bum is as holy as the seraphim, the madman is as holy as you, my soul are holy. The typewriter is holy, the poem is holy, the voice is holy, the hearers are holy, the ecstasy is holy. Holy Peter, Holy Allen, Holy Solomon, Holy Lucian, Holy Kerouac, Holy Hunke, Holy Burroughs, Holy Cassidy, Holy the unknown buggered and suffering beggars, holy the hideous human angels, holy my mother in the insane asylum, holy the cocks of the grandfathers of Kansas, holy the groaning saxophone, holy the bop apocalypse, holy the jazz bands, marijuana, hipsters, peace and junk and drums, holy the solitudes of skyscrapers and pavements, holy the cafeterias filled with the millions, holy the mysterious rivers of tears under the street.
Holy the vast lamb of the middle class, holy the crazy shepherds of rebellion, who digs Los Angeles is Los Angeles, holy New York, holy San Francisco, holy Bay Area and Seattle, holy Paris, holy Tangiers, holy Moscow, holy Istanbul, holy time and eternity, holy eternity and time, holy the clocks in space, holy the fourth dimension, holy the fifth international, holy the angel and Moloch, holy the sea, holy the desert, holy the railroad, holy the locomotive, holy the visions, holy the hallucinations, holy the miracles, holy the eyeball, holy the abyss, holy forgiveness, mercy,